Welcome back to TTHL. Today we invite you to venture with us to Villisca, Iowa, a small, unassuming town where we take a look at the spine-tingling tale of the Villisca Axe House murders, which to this day remains unsolved. Villisca, which translates from the language of the indigenous Native Americans as pretty place or pleasant view, is located 100 miles southwest of Des Moines, Iowa. This quaint Midwestern town was populated with just over 2,500 people, which is where our tale begins. The primary commerce of Villisca at the time was agriculture, but it also boasts of several hotels, stores, theaters, and manufacturing companies. In addition, more than 24 passengers and freight trains were scheduled to stop at the local train depot each day. Villisca was flourishing by the early 1900s. However, we begin on Sunday morning, June 10, 1912, when the citizens of Villisca, Iowa would awaken to a horrible shroud of darkness that would cover the town even to this day. The news of two well-known community members, Josiah Moore, owner and operator of a John Deere Company franchise in town, and his wife Sarah, a well-known church volunteer, had been murdered sometime during the night. But by the end of the day, the now notorious Villisca home was not only the scene of the murder of two adults, but also the unfortunate location of 8 murders, which included the entire Moore family of 6 and 2 neighborhood friends that were spending the night. The events that unfolded between Saturday evening, June 9th, and the early morning hours of Sunday, June 10th, 1912, would change the trajectory of this town's history forever. On Sunday morning, June 10th, Mary Peckman, the neighbor of the Moores, began her daily chores at 5 a.m. By 7 a.m., she noticed that the Moore family hadn't come outside or started any of their chores that morning, which were usually their custom. After knocking on the door to check in on the family and having not heard even a sound from inside the home, she discovered that not only was the front door locked, but the back door was locked as well, which was very unusual for the Moore family. She was immediately concerned and contacted Ross Moore, the brother of Josiah Moore. He arrived shortly after and knocked loudly on the door and shouted, attempting to arouse someone, but not a sound. He then tried to look through the windows, but found that all the curtains had been drawn, and the few windows without curtains had been covered by what appeared to be clothes which were recklessly draped over the windows, seemingly to hide the horrific deeds inside, at least for now. After using one of the keys he had on his keychain, the brother Josiah opened the door and entered. He then left the house just as quickly as he had entered and instructed Mary to call the sheriff immediately. The local authorities were notified. Henry Horton, the sheriff at the time, arrived soon after. And after being unable to rouse anyone from inside the Moore home as well, he carefully entered the home. Sheriff Horton would find 43-year-old Josiah, 39-year-old Sarah, their 4 children, and 2 visiting girlfriends who had been sleeping over, all of whom appeared to have been murdered in their beds while sleeping. Each of their faces were covered, but would later be unrecognizable. Sheriff Horton was reported to have said as he quickly walked out of the home, "Somebody was murdered in every bed." There were a couple of unusual clues left at the murder scene. A 4-pound slab of bacon had been left behind, leaning against the wall next to the axe that had been used for the killings. It was said that the suspects had taken pieces of clothing from the dresser drawers to cover the mirrors and glass, and the face of each of the victims. The killer or killers were assumed to have taken their time, because there was a plate of uneaten food left on the kitchen table, and even a bowl of bloody water in the kitchen where they had attempted to wash their hands. Nothing else seemed to be disturbed in the home, and the neighbors reported that they had not heard any disturbances during the night. Authorities had named multiple suspects during the months that followed, including Reverend Lynn George Jacqueline Kelly, who left Villisca on a train the following morning and allegedly told passengers about 8 dead souls in Villisca who were butchered in their beds. In addition, Kelly signed a confession months later. The Reverend was tried 2 times for the killings. The jury deadlocked in his first trial, 11-1, the following September, after he had recanted his confession during the trial. A second trial also acquitted Kelly the following November. There was talk of a connection between the Villisca murders and a serial killer that had been committing murders throughout the Midwest at the time of the Villisca murders. He was thought to have been taking advantage of the train services that were available to quickly access each town in order to commit his heinous crimes. Over 100 years later, the Villisca Axe House murders remain unsolved. Today, the house is known for its chilling paranormal activity. Over the years, tenants have said that they have seen a shadowy figure of a man with an axe standing at the foot of their beds when suddenly awakened during the night. Some have claimed to have seen images of bloody shoes, and others have claimed to have heard and seen closet doors that open on their own. Others claim that they can hear the sounds of children crying in the middle of the night, and that their clothes have been taken from dressers and closets and thrown about their room. And even some have reported feeling an evil presence in the attic. Documentaries, movies, and books about the slayings at the Villisca house have been created. The house, now referred to as the Villisca Axe Murder House, is now open for tours and overnight visits if you dare. Ghost hunters and thrill seekers alike quite often travel to the Villisca Axe Murder House to experience the now documented and well-known supernatural phenomena for themselves as they try to uncover the secrets behind this century-old mystery. Are you brave enough to step inside the Villisca Axe Murder House, explore its dark past, and come face to face with the spirits that are said to still linger? If so, we invite you to subscribe to our channel and venture with us as we uncover more spine-tingling tales and haunted locations.